fire breaks out inside of a downtown apartment building.
It's heartbreaking to see this happen.
Hundreds of firefighters worked together to put out the flames.
There was some heroic things that were done in here last night.
The 247-unit building under construction and set to open in just weeks.
It has been an incredible scene out here, and obviously one that's extraordinarily sad and disappointing to a lot of us.
Tonight, new concerns the building could be at risk of collapse.
I would probably say it is going to be a total loss.
And now, what's next for downtown development?
All we can hope is that we can move forward as quickly as possible.
First Coast News at 5 starts now.
And we want to welcome you to First Coast News at 5. I'm Anthony Austin.
And I'm Jeannie Blaylock. Still breaking tonight at 5 o'clock. Fire crews still on the scene of a major fire at a downtown apartment complex. Those flames broke out late last night.
That building, the RISE Doro, has been under construction for more than 2 years now. It was supposed to have apartment units, retail space, and a rooftop bar. And some people were supposed to start moving in as early as March.
We have team coverage for you tonight. Atia Collins has the latest from Jacksonville's mayor. Renata DiGregorio is on your side speaking with businesses around that apartment building in the sports complex area. And Zach Wilcox spoke with a structural engineer today. But
first, we want to go straight out to our Heather Crawford. She's live from the fire scene tonight. And to put this in perspective for you, this is right behind our TV station here at First Coast News, right next to Intuition. And Heather, I know you just spoke with Captain Proswimmer with Jacksonville Fire and Rescue.
Yeah, that's right, Anthony. We're here right along Bay Street. You can see A. Philip Randolph is blocked off right now. Still very much an active scene as dozens of firefighters are out here almost 20 hours after the fire at the RISE Doro apartment complex started last night. And Captain Proswimmer is here with me right now. And Captain, I know you've been on scene since last night. We thank you for everything the firefighters are doing. This building's still very much at risk of collapsing.
There's potential. I mean, it's a stability issue. It's something that we're concerned about, and we're going to take every precaution so nobody gets hurt.
And the very latest, what's happening right now?
Right now, we just got minimal crews. We got 4 crews or 4 ladder trucks on each corner of the building, and we're doing our drone technology to search for some hot spots that we can possibly put a little water on and try to keep it to a minimum and get the smoldering out.
All right, Captain, thank you so very much. So we want to kind of give you a recap of what's happened since this fire broke out last night. Here's the very latest.
The fire was first reported to Jacksonville Fire Rescue around 9:30 Sunday night. By 10 o'clock, there was a massive presence around the RISE Doro apartments. Roads around the building blocked off. The smoke started to build around the downtown sports complex around midnight. This is video we took at 12:30 a.m. Everbank Stadium barely visible in the background due to all of the smoke. Overnight and throughout the morning, fire crews continued to work on the fire. 110 firefighters were on scene at one point. 7 ladders were up, pumping water into the apartment building. Fire Chief Keith Powers says there was an internal collapse of the building. He says it could take days for the fire to be completely extinguished.
And so that 911 call came in around 9:30 last night from a security guard who noticed something wasn't right. And the fire started right back here on this end of the building. I want you to listen to a portion of that 911 call.
And wherever that smoke is coming from is rolling fast.
It's thick black smoke?
It's thick black smoke.
Okay.
So that is part of the 911 call. And just to put into perspective where we are, as Anthony mentioned, we are on the backside of First Coast News. A. Philip Randolph, this is just down the street from VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena, right across from the baseball park, 1-to-1 Financial Park. And it's within walking distance of Everbank Stadium. And so right now, here we are almost 20 hours after this fire started. The smoke's still very much thick in the air. And this was supposed to be the first of a revitalization effort for moving people downtown into this entertainment sports complex district. Our team coverage continues now with On Your Side's Atia Collins, who had a chance to speak today with Mayor Donna Deegan, who has been on the scene out here today. And Atia, you also got a statement from the developers of the RISE Doro apartments.
Yeah, that's right. The developers at this time, well, they're thanking firefighters and first responders who have now been battling these flames for over 20 hours. But what's on everybody's mind is what happens next for this location and what a possible rebuild could look like. And that is still a question yet to be answered.
It's sad to look at it.
Richard Schooley has been watching the development of the RISE Doro Apartments for years. A member of the Jacksonville Historical Society, he remembers when the property housed the George Duro Fixture Company warehouses.
I saw this from the beginning go up slowly, slowly, slowly. Now that it's almost gone, it's just a tragedy.
According to city documents, RISE General Contractors first submitted a permit for a new apartment building in December 2020. The development was part of a larger goal to revitalize the area, according to Mayor Donna Deegan, who gave an update on the firefight earlier this afternoon.
It's heartbreaking to see this happen. I mean, this was something that we were all so very much looking forward to, that we felt was going to be such a catalyst to the development down here in the entertainment district. So it's a setback, and it's extraordinarily disappointing.
Mayor Deegan said she has spoken with the developer's leadership team, and she is hopeful they will rebuild. We reached out to RISE developers asking in an email about the next steps, including how they would assess damage and the timeline for reopening. Their response didn't answer those questions. Instead, we were told at this time, our sole focus is on aiding the fire department in any way possible. Getting this project back on track is something many are concerned about, including Schooley.
It's going to be a long time before they can rebuild it, tear it down, and then rebuild it again. It's such a loss to the city.
And crews are still here on scene. We just watched them put a ladder back up in the air, and that hose going again as they still continue to battle these flames. Now, as far as what happens next, well, we've been told that the state fire marshal is already on scene, and they will be beginning their investigation into the cause of this fire. Reporting in Jacksonville, Tia Collins, First Coast News, on your side.
Tia, thanks so much. And I just want to show you from our vantage point over here, you can see the water being sprayed into the Doro apartment complex right now. They are intermittently spraying water on and off. And I just got word that the fire chief, Keith Powers, is going to be joined by Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan for an update tonight at 6:05. And I'm told that one of the developers is expected to be at that news briefing. And so we will be bringing that to you on air and online. Jeannie and Anthony, I'm going to send it back into you, but we'll have a lot more coming up in just a few minutes live from the scene of this RISE Doro apartment fire.
Heather, thank you. So we want to talk now about the smoke that's in the air. Heavy smoke started billowing from the apartment fire around midnight. You can see video of that smoke last night. Right now you're seeing some of the response from fire crews. First Coast News is actually right next to the RISE Doro building, as we mentioned, and we can still smell the smoke tonight inside our studio. It's pretty strong even at this hour, nearly 20 hours later.
Yeah, some of the staff has chosen to wear masks because the smoke is bothering them. When I blink, my eyes are burning. I can feel it. So let's take another live look. You're seeing that right now on the left side of your screen. Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan is always good at tracking the air quality no matter what's going on. So what exactly is the air quality tonight, and what area are we talking about?
Okay, well, of course, everything is relative, right? A tragic, at least, construction occurrence here, although certainly good news as far as we know. We don't have any injuries, but relative to what it was like this morning, both visually, so this picture just taken, so all we see is white smoke, very little. Visibilities are much improved, and the air quality is moderate. And to put it in perspective, very often once vehicles start driving and during rush hour, our air quality goes from good to moderate. So it's not any worse than a typical rush hour day. But that's compared to this morning when it was unhealthful. Now, to give you a perspective, the actual monitor, official monitor, is located right about here. So just about a block from the building. So I would suspect if you're just southeast of the building, maybe occasionally even a little worse than moderate. But again, if you just follow trends, at least tremendously improved. The winds are helping. They are no longer as strong. There's the air quality right there in the downtown area, and really calling it the sports complex, very near the arena. These winds will be dropping. Gust, now we don't even have any gust over 15 miles per hour. For all of us, again, the smoke just in the arena area now, for all of us under those clear skies elsewhere, temperatures dropping. The winds will drop for 24 hours, but they're going to pick back up again. That could be critical. We'll talk about that in just a few moments.
All right, Tim, let's talk just a bit more about the air quality now. As Tim is saying, it's moderate, and that means that if you're at risk for certain health issues, you may want to stay inside. We're talking about folks who live, as Tim is explaining, around that sports complex area in downtown Jacksonville. And the advice for you is if you have asthma, maybe COPD, heart disease, or maybe if you're pregnant, stay inside. Also, children should limit their time outside for right now. And you could also consider wearing a KN95 mask to help filter out the particles that are in the air.
Jacksonville Fire and Rescue described this fire as a 3-alarm fire. But what does that exactly mean? You hear about it all the time, the different alarms. Well, according to Jacksonville Fire and Rescue, a 3-alarm fire is a serious fire. The amount of resources used to extinguish the fire are duplicated twice, and that's why there's so many firefighters and fire trucks on the scene because of the severity of the fire. It was escalated so much.
All right, let's check back in now with Heather Crawford on your side at the scene of this fire. And Heather, tell us a little bit what you've just found out here.
Well, they're going to be out here for quite some time, Jeannie. You can see right now they've stopped spraying water just momentarily on this fire. But this is a very much fluid situation. Firefighters have been working diligently since 9:30 last night to get this fire under control. And on your side's Renata De Gregorio has had a chance to speak with some people who were hoping to move into the RISE Doro Apartments. This was supposed to open up March 1st is what we're hearing. And so she's been talking to people who were ready to move in, and now that definitely is not going to happen.
Yeah, Heather, these guys now have to find new places to live. One person I talked to works from home, so now they technically also have to find a new space to work in. Of course, right behind where all this is happening, next to the main building that we've been talking about, past all the debris, we've got businesses, and they're blocked off as well by the police tape. A person at one of them calls this fire and just everything going on a blow.
It's unknown how long that's going to be impacting us.
David Cohen, president and co-founder of Manifest Distilling, says he doesn't know how long his business could be closed. He did a walkthrough with emergency officials Monday.
We were able to peek in there for a minute, and thankfully everything looked okay.
Those at other downtown businesses also say it's a financial hit. They were just weeks away from getting the first of what could have been hundreds of more customers with the apartments.
It'd be nice to bring those residents over to, come hang out down here, or at least over here on the elbow and everything with, spliffs and underbelly and all that.
Lori Boyer, CEO of the Downtown Investment Authority, says the RISE Doro Apartments were a pioneer project for the sports and entertainment area.
It's certainly tragic and it's really disappointing. I've been saying that we have 1,000 units under construction. Well, that's 250 of them.
It feels like a blow, just to the overall progress of that part of the city and activating our nightlife down there.
He says for now, they're trying to stay positive about a timeline for when business will be back. Lori says that it is important to note that these are not the only new apartments being built around downtown, but what makes them so unique is their location, right where they are in the middle of all of this area with the sports district, and so that is going to be a setback for the city. Renata De Gregorio, live downtown Jacksonville, First Coast News, on your side.
Renata, thank you so much. So the good news out of this situation is that no one has been hurt. The bad news, it appears that the RISE Doro Apartments are a total loss. This just as people were hoping to get ready to move in the very near future. That, of course, will not happen. Roads downtown still blocked off around this apartment complex as firefighters continue to spray water on the apartments. And we're going to continue to stay out here on scene. We have more team coverage coming up tonight at 5:30, and you can find the latest in the First Coast News app. If you don't have our app, just text 904-633-4202, and we will send you, text the word app to that number, we'll send you a link so you can download it right now. That is the latest from downtown Jacksonville. Heather Crawford, First Coast News, on your side. So right now we are seeing a little bit of smoke coming from the RISE Doro Apartments that caught fire late last night. This is a $65 million development, and the question is this apartment complex going to collapse? It is at risk. That is a possibility. And we asked a local structural engineer their thoughts on it today. He said based on the damage that he can see happening inside, that it certainly is a possibility that it could collapse. Now, if it does not collapse, he believes that there's a good chance that it will come down anyway because of the risk of renovating it in its current state due to the fire.
It would be better to be proactive and push it inward than let it fall by itself. Push it toward the interior so that you didn't have to worry about it falling against other buildings or causing debris problems in the streets.
So that structural engineer tells us that he figures it would take at least 2 years to rebuild the RISE Doro if they do opt for demolition. You know, this construction had been underway for about 2 years when it caught fire last night. So we're going to continue our coverage out here live on the scene. But as you see behind me, the road's still blocked off. Firefighters still on the scene at this RISE Doro apartment fire. Live in Jacksonville, Heather Crawford, First Coast News on your side.
Is joining us now, and Heather, if you could just kind of take us through what we currently know about this fire.
Well, Anthony, tonight we don't know what started it. Officials say they're investigating. The state fire marshal's been on scene investigating, but we don't know what caused it. We do know that they are still working on putting out hotspots right now. You can see behind me the ladder truck here on the scene. There are 4 ladder trucks, about 35 to 40 firefighters on the scene right now, almost 20 hours after this fire started in downtown Jacksonville. And if Cole just shows you the street right here, you can see that A. Philip Randolph Highway is closed. It's going to be closed for the foreseeable future in this area where the RISE Doro Apartments are, because there is concern that this apartment complex that was just getting ready to open in a couple weeks could collapse. So they are monitoring that situation very closely. Firefighters are positioned on the corners, so if it did collapse, that they would not be in harm's way. And because this building was under construction, the way the fire was able to spread has not allowed firefighters to go into the building. So JFRD has its drones up in the sky monitoring those hot spots. And so the fire is under control, but dozens of firefighters still on the scene here tonight. It started last night at around 9:30. That's when a security guard reported seeing the smoke. The bad news is that this apartment complex appears to be a total loss. A $65 million development project appears to be a total loss. The good news, as Jeannie said, no one was hurt. Now, the fire chief says it appears that this fire started on the 6th floor of this apartment complex that was under construction. And at one point, 110 firefighters were on scene battling the 3-alarm fire. Let's listen to what Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan told us just a short time ago.
One of the concerns we have right now is we're trying to protect the river from all this this runoff that's going out into the water, and we want to make sure that a lot of the debris that falls from the building doesn't also make its way into the river.
So you have the environmental concerns, you have the concerns of a potential collapse, and then Intuition Ale House, which is right behind me, it had to be shut down because that building, the RISE Doro, could collapse. So they want to keep everyone out of harm's way. So no word on when businesses nearby like Intuition Ale Works will reopen. But this building, as I mentioned, could potentially collapse. And on your side, Zach Wilcox continues our live team coverage now, and he had a chance to speak with a structural engineer. Zach, what did that structural engineer have to say about this?
Yeah, well, Heather, earlier today around noon is when we found out from the fire chief that part of the building had collapsed on the inside. But as of the whole thing going down, I did talk to that structural engineer who said he doesn't like what he sees from the video up above, and it certainly remains a possibility. And even if it doesn't collapse, rebuilding anything on that property is going to be quite the challenge for the developers.
Tragic, first of all. I hate to see any new building go up in flames like that. That's rough for everybody involved.
Nearly 3 years of work ruined by a fire that keeps burning. It was April 2021 when the Doro Fixtures building was knocked down to make way for the RISE Doro Apartments. Jacksonville-based structural engineer Ron Woods can't help but wonder what the path forward will be.
The potential for collapse is certainly there, depending on how the walls are braced, how the internal structure is reacting against the walls.
Even if it doesn't collapse, Woods says the developers have to be considering knocking it down.
Moving crews in there to try to renovate things could be pretty risky. Many contractors in a situation like this would find it less expensive to just wipe everything out and start over.
Another question we received was about the sprinkler system.
There is the piping for a sprinkler system, but it did not activate.
A representative with Starfire Sprinklers said she couldn't speak to the RISE Doro specifically, but says it would be common for the water to the sprinklers to still be shut off with a month until opening. She said there would be 3 big reasons why. Number 1, recent freezing weather. Number 2, the alarm system is the last thing to be installed and likely wouldn't be online until about a week before move-ins. And number 3, if plumbers were still doing any work, leaving the water off makes sense, so if they do hit a line or something, it wouldn't cause as much of an issue.
A lot of systems like that get commissioned right near the end. It's not unusual that they would not be on at this point.
Woods mentioned that typically with a development like this, it would be about a week out or so that they would flip those sprinklers on for good. And as for demoing it as a whole, Woods said that really what he would advise is pushing it down in toward the interior rather than letting it collapse on its own. That way you don't risk it having falling on any part of the roadway or any of the buildings nearby. In downtown, Zach Wilcox, First Coast News, on your side.
Zach, thank you. And I can tell you there are a lot of firefighters, there are a lot of engineers out here watching this very closely, making sure that everyone is staying out of harm's way. Now, when we heard from Fire Chief Keith Powers today, he was at a news conference at around noon this afternoon with Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan, and the fire chief talked about some of the concerns with firefighters battling this fire, some safety concerns. Take a listen.
We also have some integrity issues with the walls. If you look at the building, you can see some of the walls are a little bit bowed, and that's because the whole roof has burnt off of the building. It's burnt down into some of the lower floors now, and when that happens, those walls are not supported now, and they're getting a little bit unstable, which is creating a safety issue around the building.
And Captain Prostomer also told me they're monitoring closely just how much water they're spraying on the apartment complex because of the weight of that water. So Chief Powers says he cannot praise his crews, his men and women, enough for being out here. They've been on the scene since this fire started last night at 9:30. So hats off to all the firefighters who have been working fervently to make sure this fire is put out just as quickly as possible. That potentially could happen tomorrow, but does not look like it will happen today. That is the latest live in downtown Jacksonville. We will have more live continuing team coverage coming up in just a few minutes. We'll send it back into the studio to you, Jeannie and Anthony. Well, right now we are live in downtown Jacksonville in front of the RISE Doro Apartments. You can see right here they caught on fire around 9:30 last night. Dozens of firefighters still almost 20 hours later on the scene working to extinguish this fire. It probably is not going to be put out until tomorrow at the very earliest. The road is still blocked off in this area and businesses nearby are shut down. There is a potential that this apartment complex that was under construction could collapse. We're monitoring closely. The good news is no one was hurt. And we want to check in now with meteorologist Tim Deegan. And Tim, this is right in front of the First Coast News TV station. And I know inside our newsroom and out here at the scene, the air is just filled with thick smoke right now.
Absolutely, but relatively speaking, at least that's being dispersed. And that's why we continue to follow the air quality, as we mentioned now, downtown. We're talking right near the fire, think near the arena, to the west of the bank. Air quality in the moderate range. To put that in perspective, very often once rush hour starts in the morning and once we have rush hour during the afternoon, just plain the combustion engines out there send our air quality to the moderate level. So it's not as good as green or healthy, but at least much better than it was this morning when we were at the unhealthy level. We'll keep a close watch on it for you.
Right now at 6, First Coast News is following breaking news in downtown Jacksonville. A fire at an apartment building under construction near the Jags Stadium, VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena, and our own First Coast News studios. This is a live look as crews continue their efforts to get that fire under control nearly 21 hours after it all started.
And this is a look at video from overnight. You can see how intense those flames were. Mayor Donna Deegan calling it a total loss. Thank you so much for joining us for First Coast News at 6. I'm Jeannie Blaylock.
And I'm Anthony Austin. This is our top story tonight. We've been following this all day and since last night at 11. Here's 3 things to know right now. This fire started around 9:30 last night at the RISE Doro building. Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department calling it a 3-alarm fire, meaning more than 100 firefighters responded. In a news conference this morning, Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan said the building, which was set to open March 1st, had a sprinkler system, but it was not operational. The state fire marshal is now investigating to determine the cause of this fire.
First Coast News has had live team coverage on every angle for all day long. We have some new information for you tonight from how the wind impacted the firefighting, what is next for this building, and then the impact its loss could have on surrounding development downtown. First Coast News anchor Heather Crawford joins us live now just outside the RISE Doro to begin our team coverage tonight.
And Heather, we know that there are still fire crews on scene working on those hot spots right now at 6.
That is right, Anthony and Jeannie. You know, as the sun starts to set here in downtown Jacksonville, we're standing right on Bay Street at A. Philip Randolph, just by the back parking lot of First Coast News, of our TV station. And you can see A. Philip Randolph is shut down right now, and see all those firefighters. They're strategically positioned tonight on the corner of the RISE Doro building because there is the potential that due to this fire, this building, the apartment complex that was under construction, could collapse. So they want to make sure that no firefighters are in any harm's way whatsoever. Now, they have been on scene here for almost 20 hours since this fire broke out downtown last night around 9:30. Tonight, we still don't know what caused the fire. The good news is that no one has been hurt. But at the peak of the fire, more than 100 firefighters were on scene battling it, and they're continuing now 20 hours later to put out the hot spots. JFRD has drones up in the sky monitoring those hot spots. And this is a $65 million development project that was supposed to open March 1st. It's a project that's been under construction for about 2 years that was supposed to bring housing, about 250 apartments downtown, and retail space and dining space right in the heart of the sports and entertainment district, right by Vice Star Veterans Memorial Arena.
Well, obviously a lot of us grew up with the Doro building right there, and it was a fixture in Jacksonville for so long, and to see the transformation of it to this, you know, obviously it was something we were all very much looking forward to, a lot of pride in that. So truly this is heartbreaking.
So the mayor is saying that it appears that this apartment complex is a total loss. We don't know if it's going to collapse. Is it going to have to be demolished? Will they be able to salvage any of it? Those are questions that engineers will have to determine down the road. But right now the focus is on putting out this fire. That may not happen until tomorrow at the earliest, is what firefighters are telling me. Jacksonville Fire Rescue Chief Keith Powers, he made the call to pull firefighters out of the building because of safety concerns. They didn't want any firefighters to get hurt in the event that this building collapses. And so they're continuing tonight to work on the outside of the apartment complex. They have been spraying water on this building. They're also monitoring just the weight of the water, of how much they're putting on. The chief says that there were sprinklers installed in the RISE Doro that was set to open in a few weeks, but those sprinklers were not working, so they never went off. And with just a month to go until it was set to open, we did reach out to a structural engineer to ask, is that normal not to have the sprinkler system operational? And he told us an apartment building like this would likely wait until a week out from move-ins or so, a week or so, to turn on the sprinkler system. Here's what he told us.
A lot of interaction in a sprinkler system with regard to the alarms, with regard to the automation of the sprinklers going off. All of those are fairly complicated, and in a building this size with so many units and so many pipes running through there, yeah, that's a big consideration.
Now, we also reached out to a commercial sprinkler company, and they told us that typically the sprinklers wouldn't have water at this point because we had recent freezing temperatures, and also final touches were going on with the plumbing, and so they likely wouldn't turn them on until the alarm system was activated. So we have not gotten word yet from the developers themselves as to why the sprinkler system had not been activated, but we know that it was not on. And we want to go now to Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan, who is on scene getting ready to give us an update on the latest on the RISE Doro Apartments.
We also, where's our engineer? There's Chad. Hi, Chad Johnson, our structural engineer for the city, who did our evaluation this afternoon, is here as well and can also answer questions. So I'm just going to give you a few brief updates, and then we can go to questions. So our city engineers have been working over the past few hours. As we said, you know, the very first thing we needed to determine was whether the building was structurally safe. They have determined, no surprise, that it is not. That means that in short order, as soon as we can do it, that the wood framing in that building will be coming down. We are concerned, obviously, about not only the safety of people in the buildings nearby, but also we just don't want to destroy anybody's structures. So we're worried about intuition and some of the other areas. So that will be happening just as soon as we can make that happen. Public safety has to be number one. You asked me earlier about the sprinkler system. So we learned the sprinkler system was not yet activated because there had to be a pressure test that was done right before the building was going to be opened. That was going to happen this coming week before residents started to move in. That pressure test had not yet been done, so the sprinklers were not yet turned on. As far as tenant support, we are going to be working with the folks who had planned to move in to try to find other places for them to live. As far as road closures are concerned, hopefully you guys have this. As our firefighters continue to combat the fire in the following areas, including sidewalks, are going to be closed until further notice. That's going to be Duval Street East from Georgia Street to Palmetto Street, Adams Street from A. Philip Randolph to Lafayette Street, and A. Philip Randolph from Duval Street to Bay Street, and Gator Bowl Boulevard from Lafayette Street to Georgia Street. The events happening around the city, the Icemen are scheduled to play in the arena on Wednesday night and on Friday night. We're looking forward to safe fan experiences for everybody who wants to come to those games, but that garage over here, because of where the wall is on this side of the building, we're not going to want that to cause any sort of danger to the parking garage, so we're not going to use the parking garage. That's going to be the only thing that is affected there, but fans will still be able to go to the games. As far as business closures, unfortunately, Intuition, Ale Works, Manifest Distilling, and the offices across A. Philip Randolph Boulevard also are in the collapse zone, so they're going to have to be closed until we're able to bring those walls down and make sure that they can't collapse onto the street. And then in terms of air quality, you asked me about air quality. We have 7 air quality monitors around the city. We checked all of them. They all registered air quality in the good range this afternoon, so whatever smoke we had did not affect in a negative way our air quality. As far as the river is concerned, the city's Environmental Quality Division, Coast Guard, the EPA have all been notified about potential poisons that have gone into the river because of this. We'll be monitoring that. Just want to also just once again, please ask for your patience here on some of these issues. I know you got a lot of questions still, so do we, all of us. We're not going to have them all answered in 24 hours, okay? So especially while this building is still burning, we're just going to continue to work. So just to wrap, while this is clearly a setback for us and all of our hearts are broken about it, it's not going to stop our forward momentum downtown. And I had an opportunity to speak for quite a while this afternoon with Greg and his team. And I will just tell you that they're a local company. They're a Jacksonville company. They've got several other projects that are ongoing in the city of Jacksonville. They're committed to this city, and they are committed to building back. So, you know, obviously this is disappointing for all of us, but we're going to move forward and through it. And we wouldn't be able to be doing much of anything beyond lamenting if it weren't for our wonderful firefighters. So I just want to tell you how, once again, grateful I am for all the work that they've done from 9:30 last night all the way through. They're still here tonight. They'll probably be here all through the night again. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Powers with gratitude for all you're doing.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a great bunch of firefighters in this city. So just to get you up to speed real quick on what's going to happen through the night, we've got ladders positioned on all 4 corners. Those ladders are going to be in place. We'll have firefighters down here monitoring the situation. When we have a flare-up, they will put water on that. Other than that, we're not going to be flowing water because we're concerned about the runoff going into the river. And that we'll continue to monitor the situation throughout the night and into tomorrow until we feel like it's safe enough to start taking some of these ladders down. So with that, we'll be glad to take any questions.
Dave, the 911 call has been released, and the 911 caller said he saw a crew leave earlier in the evening. Do we know anything about the last group of people who were in the building at the time?
Well, you want to answer that, Greg?
I certainly don't mind. Yeah, thank you for that question. We had some flooring experts laying tile on the bottom floor of the building that were not up in the area that the fire supposedly started up higher into the building. They were not in the area of harm or danger, immediate danger with the fire, and they were leaving when they saw heard crackling or what have you.
Did any of your crews have any ideas, any thoughts at this point on what could have happened?
No, I mean, none of us do at this point still. It's, you know, still an ongoing investigation, and a lot of due diligence and inspection still has to occur.
Were any of the historic Doro fixtures able to be salvaged?
We haven't been able to get into the building to really give you an answer on that. You know, I don't know. We don't know.
How many tenants were signed up to start leasing?
Sure. We had 8 residents who were due to move in this coming weekend, and we've actually contacted each of them, as Mayor Deegan said, and those families have all been offered places, other RISE properties throughout the greater Jacksonville community, and some of them, in fact, have taken us up on that already. We were going to be close to that. Yeah, that's fair.
How's your business doing right now? This is devastating for your local business to have this. I mean, how are you guys doing today?
Man, today's been a rough day. You know, there's a lot of heartbroken people in the office of RISE. Our motto is love, serve, care, and we're doing that with one another right now. Our subcontractors, our professional partners. We were all kind of held hands together today and tried to be strong and faithful while we deal with this tragedy. And you know, so I appreciate you asking. There's a lot of heartbroken people in the RISE family right now. This has been a labor of love since 2019, this Doro project.
Do you know the rough cost of this project?
It's upwards of $60 million. It's yet to be determined. You know, the structure is also a lot of precast concrete. There's a parking deck and a podium, concrete podium that, you know, God willing is unaffected and still sustainable and usable. If that's the case, we will definitely try to do so. If it's not and it's unsafe as well, then it will also come down, but it's yet to be determined.
And when would you consider the timing for rebuilding?
Just as soon as we can get through our process. You know, we have a process, obviously, now that this has occurred, that we have to go through, and that's going to have to run its course. I would be speculating if I told you how quickly that takes, right?
On average, how much will it cost to rebuild?
Again, I'm not sure. I mean, it's to be determined. I mean, we have to go through a whole nother design and construction estimating process in that phase of the development. And you know, the market will sound at that point and tell us what costs are then. You know, they've obviously changed since we started construction here.
Is cheap power? You brought it. I saw lights have been brought in for overnight. It looks like. Is this going to be overnight? Are we still expecting a few days? Is that time frame changed at all?
Scott, the problem is we got those voids up there that we can't get to from the outside, and so we're going to have these ladders positioned around here probably for a couple days. And as fire shows itself, we'll put that little bit of fire out. But because we can't get into those voids, we're just going to have to stay here and work with it until we're done or until the demolition starts.
Do you have any idea how many gallons of water have been used so far?
A bunch. I don't know.
Do you know how this maybe affects the river, actually?
So we have a responsibility to notify the EPA and the Coast Guard and city's Environmental Quality Division. Those notifications were made early this morning, and they're the ones that are responsible for monitoring that.
Are we any closer to finding out how this may have started?
Yeah, the state is working on that investigation. The building's not safe to get into right now, so that process is going to be ongoing until they, review all the security footage they need to do and all the things that they do in their investigations.
Now, if this is a complete loss, are we expecting a rebuilding anytime soon? I know this is still it's happening right now.
Yeah, this is so new. Obviously, we've got a long process to go through and navigate. And, we chose to move the company to Jacksonville, make a commitment to be downtown. We still have that commitment strong in our hearts. We want to be downtown. To every extent possible, we absolutely want to see a rebuild happen.
Now, is this impacting your other structures around the city that you're currently building and having people move into?
No, ma'am.
And how long do you actually expect businesses to be closed? Do we know how long it's going to take this whole process?
The businesses that Mayor Deegan was talking about that are on this side of APR, this parking garage and Intuition Ale Works are going to have to remain closed until the structure can be made safe. Our city engineers are working with the construction company to do that, but we've got to make the building safe first, so we don't have a potential collapse onto those businesses we talked about.
Are we expecting a collapse? Does it look like it might happen? Or?
I don't know that we're expecting one, but it's a possibility, and we have to do everything to make sure public safety remains number one.
Was the building insured? How much is insurance picking up what happened?
Yes, the building's insured, and that's part of the process that we're navigating. We don't have those answers yet. This happened just under 24 hours ago, so there's still a lot to determine. Yeah.
And just for record, can we get your name, please?
Yeah, it's Greg Blaze.
Spell it for us.
B-L-A-I-S.
And one more time on the spelling of the company.
RISE, R-I-S-E.
Do you know what project how many projects do you guys have?
In the greater Jacksonville area, we have 7. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks everybody. We appreciate your time.
Appreciate your time.
So you just heard there from the fire chief and the mayor and someone, Greg Blaze with RISE Development, saying that this Doro project had been a labor of love since the idea came to fruition in 2019. And he said they are committed to rebuilding here in downtown Jacksonville. The fire chief and the mayor both saying that public safety is the #1 priority. The wood framing behind this apartment complex is going to have to come down until the building is secure. The 5 blocks around the RISE Doro are going to be closed. We want to check in now with On Your Side's Atia Collins, who's continuing our team coverage. Atia?
Yes, Heather, all throughout the day, we've been working to learn more about the next steps for this location. And I reached out to developers asking some specific questions about the new possible timeline for reopening and what damage assessment would look like. Now, you just heard some sound there from the mayor as far as these developers committed to rebuilding here in Jacksonville, but questions still remain on what that process will look like. We know from city records that the building permit was authored to these developers in 2020, and we talked to a Jacksonville Historical Society member who was here on scene earlier today. He's concerned that this fire may put a halt on development here in the entertainment district. Take a listen.
This is the heart when people come down for the games, whether it be baseball, softball, be a while before football's back, but it's the heart of a nice area, an interesting area, and it's such a shame.
Now, crews still here on scene, like you just heard from the mayor. State Fire Marshal's office is here investigating and looking into the cause of this fire. Reporting in Jacksonville, Tia Collins, First Coast News, On Your Side.
Hours you've been out there for several hours now monitoring the situation. What's the latest for us?
So, Anthony, we just saw a firefighter who had been up. The ladder was raised to the very top of the RISE Doro Apartments. He was spraying some water on the hot spots. He's just come down. That ladder's just been lowered, but there still are dozens of firefighters here on the scene. If you can see behind me, they're positioned at the corners of the RISE Doro because of the potential of the building potentially could collapse. But the good news tonight is that no one has been hurt. Firefighters still working diligently to get this fire fully extinguished. And portions of the apartment building under construction in downtown Jacksonville will be coming down. That is according to the mayor, who we got an update from in just a little while ago. And we want to show you some of the video from the fire at the RISE Doro Apartments. The fire broke out around 9:30 last night, and we've learned just in the past hour that at least 8 people were planning to move in this weekend. But according to firefighters, this building does appear to be a total loss.